That is Lafayette High School. Lafayette High School has seen many rather famous graduates, including me, the blathering boomer. But Sandy Koufax went there, legendary major league pitcher for the Dodgers, the Brooklyn Dodgers, by the way. Larry King went to Lafayette. Rhea Perlman, who you might know as Carla, I think she played on Cheers, and she's married to Danny DeVito. Lawrence Taylor, LT. I didn't know he went to Lafayette until just now. Paul Sorvino. Remember Paul Sorvino? He played the big gangster in Goodfellas. I think his daughter Mira. I think his father Mira. Anyway, he was Mira Sorvino's father when he went to Lafayette. Paul Sorvino. Vic Damone, singer from the 50s. John Franco, major league relief pitcher. All those people, and the blathering boomer went to Lafayette High School. But you know who else went to Lafayette? And one of the people in my graduating class, his name was Mark. And he had an older brother who graduated 2 years before we did. And Mark's last name was Epstein. And Mark's brother's name was Jeffrey. So yes, I gave you the list. But yes, I went to the same high school as Jeffrey Epstein. He lived in Seagate, which was kind of the only really upper middle class community in the neighborhood I grew up in. It was a gated community in Coney Island. Our Boy Scout troops used to have competitions with each other. Troop 41 from Bensonhurst and Troop 256 from Seagate. I may very well have met, maybe even fought with Jeffrey Epstein back in the day, but I certainly, my sophomore year in high school was his senior year, and I went to the same school as him. Why does this all come up? Because Jeffrey Epstein is back in the news in a big way. We've been teased and pleased. The files are being released. The files are not being released. The files are being released. No, it's a hoax. They're not being released. Yeah, they're being released. And I'm Topsy when I ain't Uncle Tom, and I'm Topsy when I'm Uncle Tom. But anyway, the whole back and forth driving me crazy. It's driving all of us crazy. What is up? Who's hiding what? Who did what to whom? We do know that something bad happened. A lot of very, very bad things happened. So let me take you through the last couple of days. And let me start with something from yesterday. And this was, so today's Tuesday, the 18th. This was shown on Monday, the 17th.
Okay, starting this hour, President Donald Trump getting vocal about the infamous Jeffrey Epstein files. He's urging House Republicans to vote to just release to the public. The president on social media last night said House Republicans should vote to release the Epstein files because we have nothing to hide, and it's time to move on from this Democrat hoax, close quote. He also went on to say the House Oversight Committee can have whatever they are legally entitled to. I don't care. Sources tell CBS News House GOP leaders plan to hold a vote on that very matter that would force the Justice Department to release the Epstein documents in full. That apparently could happen as soon as tomorrow.
And tomorrow did indeed come, because tomorrow in that video is today. And today those votes actually did happen. So I heard that the House, on my way to work this morning, I heard the House was going to vote. And but they definitely did vote. And here's what happened in the House.
Nays are 1, 2/3 being in the affirmative. The rules are suspended. The bill is passed. And without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
Jay.
And there it is.
All right, sorry, Jay, I think my mic got cut off. Right at that moment, we got in there right on time. It has passed. Tell us what happens next.
Yeah, well, first, Kira, you can hear that applause in the chamber. I can hear it here in the hallway right off the House floor. You saw some of those members look into the gallery there as they were applauding. We know that a number of Epstein survivors were sitting there in the gallery for the duration of the vote, watching this tally come in, something that they had fought for literal years, and then ramped up the pressure in the last few months here on Capitol Hill, coming to the Hill, tearfully recounting their experiences with Jeffrey Epstein, saying how old they were when they met him for the first time. One woman was 14 years old when she said she first encountered Jeffrey Epstein. And so those experiences, ramping up the pressure on lawmakers. They had a press conference more than a month ago, then another this morning. What happens next for this legislation is it now goes over to the Senate, where House Republican leaders have made it clear they want the Senate to rewrite this and add in what they say would be stricter protections for the identities of victims, as well as the identities of any confidential informants and things of that nature. It's unclear exactly what the Senate is going to do here. John Thune, the top Republican in that chamber, has really not given an indication one way or the other which way he's leaning.
So it did go to the Senate, and the House vote was 427 to 1. Because I really wondered who in the world would be against transparency on anything, really. What is wrong with transparency, unless you're the person who has something to hide, in which case you definitely do not want transparency. So the one dissenting vote was a Republican congressman from Louisiana, and his objection was procedural. He didn't like the wording of the bill. Apparently, he didn't have a problem with the substance of it. He just didn't like the wording of it. Or maybe it was a way of getting his name in the papers. I never heard of him, and honestly, I can't even remember his name. So that was the thing. You know, Sunday night, Trump announced that if the House and Senate approve this bill, he will sign it. A lot of people thought he'd veto it. But at 427 to 1, and what I'm about to tell you about the Senate, there's no way in the world he could have vetoed this because, well, anyway, let me not get ahead of myself. So let's go to the Senate and see what happened in the Senate. And here we go.
Breaking news as we come on the air here at 5 o'clock. The U.S. Senate has just unanimously agreed to pass a bill releasing the Epstein files. U.S. House overwhelmingly approved the same bill just hours ago. Now it will head to President Trump's desk, who recently reversed his opinion on releasing the files. After spending months calling the Epstein scandal a hoax, Trump says now he will sign the bill. Tennessee Congressman Tim Burchett has been calling for the files release for years.
I don't think America wants to hear any more of this. We went 4 years under.
I disagree with that, Tim. I think we want to hear a lot about this. I think we want all the names named. You know, people think that because I voted for Trump, I support the Epstein files not being released. Nothing could be further from the truth. I've wanted this released all the time. I am all for transparency. I really am. And while I'm being transparent, I have to admit I did not have a Blathercast prepared for tonight. That Epstein story kind of dropped in my lap as I went home from work. They can call me Blatherdecked Arnold. I was a traitor to the Blatherverse today. I sincerely apologize. I scheduled a podcast that I'm a guest on. I didn't schedule it. I agreed to appear on a podcast as a guest. Something about the transportation industry. I'm not going to talk too much about it right now. But he wanted to do it at 6 o'clock on Tuesday. And I'm like, shit, that's when I blather. What am I going to do? But I thought this would be a really good opportunity for me to get on there and blather with somebody else and talk about, my professional life, which I don't do very much here. Only to come to find out that it was 6 o'clock East Coast time, which meant 3 o'clock my time. Rushed home from work, did the podcast, which ended at about 4:30. So now I'm an hour and a half away from my normal blather time, and I have nothing. I have absolutely nothing. So I did a very quick. I found those 3 clips pretty quickly. That I guess that's your timeline. Sunday night, Trump tweeted to go ahead and release the files. Monday, you saw the clip from Monday where they announced that they were going to vote on Tuesday. They did indeed vote on Tuesday. 427-1 in the House, and 100-0 in the Senate. And I got to tell you, this warms my heart. It really does. If this sex crimes should not be a partisan issue, abusing underage girls should not be a partisan issue. None of this should be a part. Nothing should be a partisan issue, but especially something like this. So this did not go along party lines, even though it was apparently gearing up to. Now we have 427-1 in the House, 100-0 in the Senate, which is amazing. They're both amazing. This is a veto-proof bill. Trump can go ahead and veto this if he wants. They have the votes to override the veto. I don't think he will. I'm not really sure where it all goes from here. There are so many layers to this story that I'm not sure where it goes. So, like I said, I wasn't prepared for this. This time of year is kind of mind-boggling for me as we approach Thanksgiving, and especially this year, the 2025, which by my calculation is 50 years since 1975. And when I started this podcast, I started talking about my story about how when I went to Lafayette High School, my after-school job, Lafayette High School being on Bay 43rd Street and Benson Avenue, a couple of blocks away on Bath and 26th Avenue, the Ulmer Park branch of the New York City Public Library, or the Brooklyn Public Library, rather. And that's where I had my first job. I got my working papers. I got the job. $1.60 an hour minimum wage when I was 16 years old. Shelved books. Underwent perpetual harassment from the local hoods, the local wannabe gangsters who for some reason picked the library as their hangout. Perpetually harassed me. It was hell. Lafayette High School was hell, and working in the library after school was hell. But I was a straight-laced high school kid. Carried my books in a briefcase, and my vices were bowling and coin collecting, and that's where I spent my $12, which was a lot of money to me at the time, paychecks on. 5 years later, again, I got my job in the library November 3rd, 1970, and November 3rd, 1975. So literally 5 years to the day later was when was the date of the act. This was actually a lie on the government's part, but I was indicted for something I did November 3rd, 1975, which was a lie. But then I got indicted again for something I did November 5th, 1975, which was true. So 50 years ago today, and this is particularly poignant. Not only is it 50 years ago, but December 4th, which is the day that I was arrested, falls on a Thursday. I was arrested the Thursday before finals week of what was to be my final semester of college. And I was in jail, missed all my finals, wrote a bunch of took all incompletes, wrote a bunch of papers while I was incarcerated, got them submitted, actually got straight B's in my last semester and graduated, although I was incarcerated and missed my graduation. This is a big story, and I've talked about that. I've touched on this. I've talked about it before. Some people want me to move on from it. I'm not going to move on from it. I'm going to repeat a quick story that I've told before. My apologies to those who've already heard this. Sophomore year of college. This is a couple of years before I got busted. I'm driving up to Albany from Brooklyn, and there's a hitchhiker wearing a Navy uniform at the Spring Valley toll booth. So my dad had always told me, you see a military guy in a uniform hitchhiking, you pick him up, especially if it's Navy, because my dad was a Navy guy in World War II. So I picked this guy up, start talking. He's on his way to Canada in uniform. He had done 2 tours of duty in Vietnam. He was done killing. He was done seeing people killed. He was done with the entire situation. He was taking his chances and heading north. So I said, look, I can't take you to Canada, but I'll happily take you to Albany. And we start talking, and we're going on and on. And finally, I said to him, you know what? What you're doing is really risky. If they catch you, they're going to put you in the brig, and you're going to lose years out of your life. And his response to me was life-changing. It's something I've never forgotten, never will forget. What he said to me was, if I have to go to prison, I will not regard that as years out of my life. I'll regard that as years of my life. So now we flash forward to December 4th, 1975, and the aftermath thereof. And it was really, getting busted was really terrible. And I will, on my pod, I will go live on December 4th on the 50th anniversary of the date. And I'm going to do my best to recreate what happened that day and how it felt. That's going to be a tough one to do. And I do hope you'll tune in. The point of it is, I keep talking about prison. I keep talking about my experiences in prison. And people keep trying to say, look, there's a lot more to you than this, focus on more positive things. But no, if I don't tell my story, then the whole experience of going to prison was for nothing. It was just another asshole getting busted for doing something illegal. I need to tell the story because that's how I could take my time in prison, remove it from years out of my life, and make it years of my life. So Blatherverse, please forgive me for all the blathering I do about prison. There's a lot more to come. At this time, a week before Thanksgiving, 1975, I was spinning out of control. I'd already, I'm not sure if the grand jury had met yet, but the sealed indictments were coming for things that happened on November 5th, November 3rd, November 5th. So then it was November 18th. I'm not sure if I've been indicted yet, 50 years ago today, but I was spinning out of control. I had developed a pretty bad habit of taking uppers to crash study for finals, for classes that I didn't bother going to all semester. And when it worked, that made it worse because it actualized. So I literally weighed, I'm a fat guy now. I weigh over 240 pounds. Back then I weighed 140 pounds senior year of college. I was doing so many black beauties and escatrols and all that kind of stuff and lots and lots of psychedelics. And my gambling was completely out of control, and not just out of control. I had no shot. I was playing so stupidly. There were tools available now that absolutely weren't available back then, and I was such a victim. I'd lose a game, so I'd double up on the next game and double up on the game after. And long story short, what started out as a $300 problem the summer between freshman and sophomore years of college, and I've told that story before on an early podcast. The $300 problem in 1973 blossomed or devolved into a $5,000 problem in 1975. And I was on what I call my carousel of insanity. The more I wasn't happy selling psychedelics, but I was deeply in debt. So sometimes I would gamble to try to get out of debt, which would only put me deeper into debt, which led me to do more dealing, and it would be more dealing, more gambling. Again, carousel of insanity, culminating on December 4th, 1975, 6:45 p.m. Eastern time, when they snatched my ass up. So that anniversary, for lack of a better word, is coming up in a couple of weeks, and I'll be talking more and more about that as time comes up. Like I said a few minutes ago, I didn't expect to do a podcast tonight. I really wasn't prepared. The Epstein story kind of fell in my lap, so I'm gonna close this one early. I know I'm only 22 minutes in. I like to blather for an hour. I might squeeze 30 minutes out of this. Let's see what happens after I play this. But we had that election for mayor in New York City, and I've blathered about that incessantly over the weeks. We all know what my opinion is. I am not happy. I'm not, forget the results. I'm not happy with the process. I'm honestly sick and tired of not having decent choices in elections. And yeah, Curtis Lewa was a decent choice, but you're not going to ever get a Republican elected mayor in deep blue New York City. So the Democrats had to come up with a candidate who could actually Is that what the mayor does? He mays? I don't know. I know that there've been some great mayors. You know, you had Fiorello LaGuardia, you had Ed Koch. I know someone I'm close to, or someone I've been close to for a long time, used to call him Ed Crotch. But I liked Ed Koch. I was driving a cab in New York City when he was mayor, and he'd get on there every day on the radio and just talk to us. I liked Ed Koch a lot. Robert Wagner was the mayor when I was a kid. John Lindsay became mayor when I was a teenager. Anyway, Gracie Mansion has seen some great mayors and some not so good ones, and I've been very, very concerned about what's coming for New York City. So anyway, I'm here to share with you a message of hope from Mr. Michael Rappaport, who, believe me, has been an extremely critical person of Mamdani. So let's hear what Michael Rappaport has to say in the aftermath of the debacle that was the election of Zohran Mamdani.
And when's the cutoff date? Is it a year? Is it 18 months? Is it 2 years? When are the buses going to be free? When does the rent get frozen? But if you do in fact keep everybody safe, Jews, whites, blacks, Puerto Ricans, everybody, every race, creed, color, denomination, everybody feels safe, comfortable, and thriving in New York, and the buses are free, and the rent's frozen, I will go outside Gracie Mansion for a week straight in January. January of 2027. You get things popping in the year January 2027, I will go outside Gracie Mansion and rake the leaves. At the coldest of the coldest day in New York, I'll be out there by raking leaves and picking up dog shit outside of Gracie Mansion. Prove us all wrong. Be great for everybody. Even though you forgot to mention New Yorkers, native New Yorkers, people that were born here, whose parents were born here, whose grandparents and great-grandparents were born here, even though you forgot to mention them at your seemingly angry speech, your victory speech, and like I said, that's probably like a flub. Probably wasn't in the prompter, because this guy's not going off the dome. Just so you know, he's not going off the dome. It's in a prompter. But if you prove me wrong, and everybody's happy, thriving, and affordability is affording, January 2027, that first week, I will be outside Gracie Mansion with a rake, raking up all the leaves and picking up all the doo-doo. Because a lot of doo-doo out there. A lot of doo-doo. Some people don't clean up their doo-doo in Carl Schultz Park near Gracie Mansion. Let me know.
So I, for one, hope to see Michael Rappaport out there raking leaves and picking up dog poop. So that's all I can say. Great to see you here, Jersey. JM saying New Jersey was just as bad for governor. That was expected. You know, I know there was some slim hope in the polls, but and then he also says Mamdani isn't going to be allowed to uphold his promises. Hochul won't let him. Well, that's going to be interesting to see how that all goes. I don't know. You know, I'd say I don't care, but I really do care. I have people I care about who live in New York City. It's my hometown. I want to go back there. I want to go back for a slice. I want to take that slice on the. You don't go into at a real pizza place. You don't walk in. You don't walk. You never see the inside of the building. You go to the window. You order a slice. You know, a good slice in New York doesn't even need toppings. Comes to you, piece of wax paper, a slice. Maybe they'll put a paper plate. You grab some napkins, you're going to need them. You pick up the slice, you fold it in half, and then you stand back because when you fold it in half, you get all the olive oil dripping, dripping, dripping. You don't want to get it on your shoes. You definitely don't want to get olive oil on your shoes. And then you fold back the end of the wax paper so that tip is exposed, and you bite into it, and oh my God, the sensation of the first bite of a New York City slice, it's in the top three. It's up there with things I don't even want to say on this podcast. Seriously, JM from Jersey says 2 slices of a can of Coke for 99 cents. You're showing your age, JM. That's been a while. Hey, I'll show my age. Slice at Augusta's when I was a kid, 15 cents. Slice at Lenny's, 20 cents. Lenny's made a bigger slice, and you had to walk 2 more blocks because Augusta's was on 20th and Bath. Lenny's was on 86th Street between 20th Avenue and Bay 23rd. You had to walk further to get there, but it was worth the nickel. It was worth the walk. Not that Augusta's didn't make a good slice. They did, but Lenny's was Lenny's. Unfortunately, sadly, Lenny's is no more. But there's still good pizza places in there. There's J&V or L&V. It's 2 letters. I think it's J&V. They're over on 18th Avenue and 62nd Street in Bensonhurst. And you got L&B Gardens. I'm a thin slice guy, but L&B made the best squares. You're in the mood for a square, you go to L&B. And there's a really good place on 6th and Bleecker. I think it might be Joe's. Again, that's one of those places you don't walk in, you go to the window. And of course, when you're done, you go to Junior's and you wipe it down. Thank you, JM, for pointing that out. You go to Junior's, you wipe it down with a slice of Junior's amazing cheesecake. So I want to go back to New York City. I want to feel safe going back to New York City. I want New York City to be thriving. I want New York City to prosper. I am not happy that this person was elected mayor, but I'm not rooting against him. It would be counterproductive to root against him. Just like it would have been counterproductive to root against the occupant of the White House from 2021 to 2025. And it's counterproductive to root against the current occupant of the White House. We live here. This is our country. New York is our city. We want things to go well. And I hope he either succeeds. I don't really care about the promises he made. JM, I kind of agree that he's probably not going to get away with it. I don't think we're going to see free buses. I don't think we're going to see rent freezes. I really hope we don't see defunding of the police or opening up Rikers Island. That would be potentially tragic. I want to see it work out. So I'm with Rappaport on this one. And so comes January, comes the coldest month of the year in New York City, with the leaves are blowing and the snow is snowing. Michael Rappaport may very well be out in front of Gracie Mansion, raking leaves and picking up dog do. And we all hope that it comes to that, including Michael Rappaport. So sorry about the short edition tonight. I know that I am the Blatherverse Arnold, the Blatherdecked Arnold of the Blatherverse, because I'm a traitor, because I was going to do a different podcast tonight. I did record a podcast on my industry. Apparently somebody got the idea that I'm an industry leader, but that was very flattering. But, he actually checked out the Blathering Boomer. I sent him a link to last week's podcast, and he liked it. So just based on that, I was happy to do his. And like I said, it turned out that it was 6 o'clock Eastern, not 6 o'clock Pacific, which gave me room to jump on this. So this was a short one tonight. This is my last one for a couple of weeks. I'll be back in 3 weeks. 3 weeks, which will be the lead up to the whole December 4th thing. I'll definitely be on December 4th. I might do December 2nd and December 4th, depends on what happens between now and December 2nd. But I will definitely do a podcast on December 4th, the 50th anniversary of my arrest. Not to celebrate it. It was the worst day of my life. It absolutely was the worst day of my life. We don't celebrate the worst day of our life. But I think that we have to acknowledge, it's like Hannibal Lecter said, our scars are the proof that the past was real. And I'm carrying big scars from that. And the more I talk about it, the better it is. So anyway, this is the part of the podcast where I just start blathering about nonsense. I'm sorry about that. I just got to say the 4 words that make the most sense, and that is the boomer has blathered. Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate all of you, and see you guys in either December 2nd, December 4th, or both. Have a beautiful, beautiful Thanksgiving, and try not to talk politics with the family. There's no future in it. Yeah.